Hi there, welcome everyone to Elite Currency webinar looking at Harp and ACU. We are going to take a look at the live Forex market in just a second. First of all, be aware though that trading for exchange and global financial markets is considered high risk, may not be suitable for everyone. Please consult a financial advisor for more information on that. This webinar is for informational and educational purposes only. By continuing watching this webinar and recording, you are aware of the risk involved with trading, you agree with this disclaimer, and you are also you agree with this disclaimer, and you're aware of the risk involved in trading. Great. So thank you for your attention on that. Before we dive into looking at the live charts, just a quick introduction about Nenad and myself. Maybe you know Nenad and me from Admiral Markets, admiralmarkets.com. We offer an analysis and webinars. Please check it out, and I think you'll enjoy that. If you're looking for a good broker, then admiralmarkets.com is also something that you want to look at. Admiral Markets has won the Best MT4 Broker Award in 2015 due to its technology. We hope that the education had a small part in that as well. And if you join Admiral Markets through Nenad and myself, then we're offering free credit for our website and courses as well through Elite Currency. So that might be something for you as well. Regarding the focus of today's webinar, we're basically looking at trending environment. We'll be looking for Heikin-Ashi green candles and the momentum to be pointing upwards. We'll be checking if there are any filters that could block the trade from developing, like pivot points, the proximity of pivot points. We're looking for basically a trending environment, but we're not trading it right in front of support or resistance. We're looking for pullback and continuation within a momentum, and we use the special Harp candles for identifying the pullback and continuation. And then we look for the oscillator to turn. We look for arrows and candle color to change. So that's basically Harp. We'll also be looking a bit at ACU, which is, has less indicators and basically uses Murray math, the accurate pivot point, our own MACD, and both of these systems have dashboards and alerts since this week. As I already indicated yesterday, this is a new feature, and we're very happy about this. It makes trading a lot easier, a lot simpler, and easier to monitor. And I'll show you, the dashboard and alert system in just a second. Now, which one might be better? For some, maybe both is interesting. For some of you, maybe ACU is better. For some of you, maybe Harp is better. It depends on what type of trader you are. If you like less indicators, go for ACU. If you like perhaps more confidence in the sense that there are more indicators confirming a setup, then maybe Harp is for you. One of our traders that is using Harp said today that Harp really makes trading a lot more relaxing for him, and he likes it a lot because of that. And I think it's because of the harmony that Harp offers, the simplicity of the coloring that matches or doesn't match, right? And I think that for some is valuable, just like the trader I mentioned. Others might like it a bit simpler, and then I think ACU could be better. All right. So, well, let's take a look at the charts and see what's going on. Here we go. Let's start just with looking at the dashboards, ACU dashboard and Harp dashboards. So this is the ACU dashboard, and we have basically on these time frames anything from 5 to weekly. This is something you can adjust. You can make less currency pairs, but also less time frames. I have 13 currency pairs, so it might seem difficult, maybe busy, but if you reduce it to 3, it becomes a lot easier for you to perhaps manage. This is all custom design, so you can change it however you want. If this is too confusing for you, go ahead and make less pairs and choose a number that makes sense to you and you can monitor without getting stressed. If this is too little, then you can add pairs as well, right? You could, I guess, easily add the double, 26, before you get, and this is a small screen, so you could even add more on a bigger screen, right, before you hit the bottom here. All right. So, any case, the euro dollar, you can see, is moving up. In this morning's webinar with Admiral Markets, I was already indicating that I think that euro dollar, pound dollar, we're going to have intraday upday today up to resistance, and we are getting that. We are getting euro dollar, pound dollar upside, and you can see that with the dark blue on the 5, the 15, the hourly, the 4 hour. All right, the long term is still down. Look at these reds, but the intraday is all up. Blue, 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 blue. Pound dollar too. So I think that analysis is proving itself correct. What I was mentioning this morning, and you can see how that translates to the ACU dashboard. From an ACU perspective, basically we had on the 4-hour chart. Sorry, let me go back. 4-hour chart, we see that we're in uptrend because of the dark blue. All right, that's the only thing that's needed on the 4-hour chart if you trade it on the 4-hour, 1 hour, 50-minute chart. So that was up. That's up already since yesterday because it's dark, thick blue. All right, and yes, it's true that from a wave analysis perspective, from my own analysis perspective, I do expect price to make a downside eventually again. But for the moment, strictly according to the ACU rules, we're looking for upside. And you see that that is happening indeed. So anyhow, moving down to the hourly, and we're looking for a retracement on the hourly. And that only really happened here, right? And yeah, basically we had a 1 hour setup, but not a 50-minute setup. And the reason was because we were in below the zero line here. So the ACU had setups at 9 and at 12, one basically went from thick red to thin red. So let's go down and look at price action a bit better. 9 and 12 is basically here and here. All right. So those were setups there on the ACU. Let me just refresh this template quickly. There we go. Sorry for that. Oh, that was the wrong one. Excuse me. Bear with me. Okay, there we go. So 12 o'clock, that was this candle. These swing points are not supposed to be on this time frame. Let me quickly correct that. Swing points. No, these are actually, that's okay. Sorry, I'm getting it confused with the other indicator. No, that's fine. So, any case, this was the entry here on the euro dollar. From a ACU point of view, and from an hourly perspective, the pivot point is a bit less important. One could wait for the break of the pivot, which means, and maybe retest of this pivot, which means, we would be trying to trade it right in here around 110.75, a bit higher, but a bit in a better position without the danger of the pivot, stopping it. So that setup is doing well. It's 50 pips. It just hit M4. That's a good level to take profit. Why? Because on the hourly chart, we're hitting overshoot and extreme overshoot and an M4 confluence. Those are extreme levels of resistance on this time frame where you definitely want to take profit. So whoever entered using the ACU setup on a basically 1 hour chart at 12 or at 9 or at 2, right, is either locking in some 60 pips, 40 pips, anywhere between 40 and 60 pips, depending on how aggressive you're targeting. Okay? Now the stop loss would have had to be, in this case, below 110.50, 110.40. So we're looking at about 30 pips stop loss probably. So we're looking at a good 2 to 1, 1.5 to 1 trade. So maybe even 20 pips, could be the lowest stop loss imaginable probably. So that was a good trade. This is an example of a 1 hour ACU trade to the upside throughout the day. So if, for instance, you are trading ACU and you hear, we're walking through the analysis at Amo Markets and I'm saying we could have intraday upside pressure today, but you're not sure how to trade it, then you can use this ACU because it precisely shows how you can tackle, where to enter a setup to the upside in this bullish environment. And the ACU is also confirming the upside with the blue dashboard. So that was an example. Let's take a look at the pound. Did the pound have any potential setup today? Let's take a look. Well, first of all, we had 4 hour upside. All right, uptrend at this point on the 4 hour chart. 1 hour chart was uptrend 2. 4 hour started with uptrend. Let's put a line here. Excuse me. Let's do that again. Right here. 1 hour chart. All right, 1 hour chart. We basically went below the zero line here, which means it's not a 50-minute setup, but an hourly setup. And we had an hourly setup here at 7 and again at 9. Those were the entries for an hourly chart. So these were buys down in here above the pivot nicely. A stop loss below we could have gone below the 1/8, for instance, or below this bottom. All right, about 50 pips if we use the bottom. And price, well, has accelerated for almost 200 pips. This is, of course, a massive kind of range, big ATR at the moment on the pound. And R2 could have been a good target. M5, M4, those are all good targets. Who knows? It could even go further. I myself was thinking about 135 as a good target, 134.90. Price has certainly has reached this level and has actually gone beyond that to 135.25, even 30. All right, but I thought 135 was actually the best target to look for because I thought that was a strong resistance zone for potential turnaround back down. So far, no hint of any bearishness, though. Yes, it could turn here, but that is a counter trend trade at this moment. From an ACU perspective, we had a good trade from here up to these targets. We should all be out by now because this is a danger zone, and I think it's a good spot just to take some profit. So those are good 2 trades on ACU throughout today, and I think that was hopefully you managed to capture some of that. At this moment, we see basically what we're looking for is 4-hour trend and 1-hour retracement. So we're looking for thick blue on 4-hour and thin blue on 1-hour, for instance, or thick blue and thick red. For a 1-hour setup, we're looking for thick blue and thin blue for a 15-minute setup. Do we have that? Not at the moment, because look, we got at this point in time. Let's review it together. These are aligned, 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 aligned. So all the 4-hour, 1-hour are aligned, which means we don't have setups. We need a retracement. We need a pullback before we can trade it. So at this moment, we don't have potential setups nearby on ACU. If we would, of course, that's the great thing. There would also be alert popping up, warning us that the setup is arriving soon. But it doesn't look like we would have that on the upside. Downside, we might have it. Why? Because look at the dollar CAD. We have red, thick red, dark red, thin, thick, thin, thick, thin, thick, thin. So we got a couple of setups there. So let's take a look at that. Euro odd, Euro New Zealand, Euro pound, dollar CAD. Let's start with dollar CAD. Let's make this the dollar CAD. And let's walk through that together. 4-hour is downtrend, thick. 1-hour is retracing. 50-minute chart basically finished this. It's retracement. These 2 lines are still below the 0 line. So that was a good setup. That setup has already occurred, unfortunately. And price entry was probably around 137. So anyone who took that setup is probably up around 12 pips at this point on the dollar CAD. Somewhere around the sell premium zone right here, as this was losing momentum, would have been that trigger for a short. Now the trade is on its way, and I would say the target, what we're looking for is the S1 at around 129.60. That's the main target for this dollar CAD short. If price were to make a retracement like this, back up to 130.08, back in here, it could still be worth it to take an entry if no one, if you didn't enter. I think it looks like a good setup. Stop loss would have to be preferably above the pivot to be safe. So that's about 30 pips, I would say. and looking at about a 60 target. All right, now the daily is up, which means that this is a slight counter trend trade, in fact. All right, from a daily perspective. So we want to be careful here. This downside is pretty corrective as well. So one thing we want to be careful of is if it doesn't move quickly our way, we'll keep an eye on it the next 15 minutes. Then it might be good to exit that trade because that's the thing when you look at a dashboard like this. It's all mixed. The higher time frame and the lower time frames are mixed. That makes things a bit riskier. Let's take a look at others like Euro New Zealand and Euro AUD. All right, 4-hour is down, as you can see, thick red. We also had the reversal candles here indicating the downside potential already, even though we saw thick. The reversal arrows, I should say, are kind of overriding the MACD here. So that is actually a reversal downside we should expect at that point. We are getting downside. Here we're thinning and retracing. 50-minute chart, we're looking for the end of retracement, which was here. So the entry would have been probably around this buy premium zone. In fact, that is a bit risky because it's on the lower side, but still okay. And anyone who took that trade, unfortunately this happened already as well, is up some 20 pips already. All right, that would have been an entry example on the ACU. That just happened a couple of 15 minutes ago. Anyone looking at Euro New Zealand could be nicely in that trade target. I think would be good to aim for the M1 at 155.36-ish, right? So that would be roughly 56 pips. Stop loss could go above the 4/8. All right, and then we had one more. I believe that was the Euro AUD. If that's yes, Euro AUD indeed. And here's the same pattern. No, the Euro AUD is down, is up, sorry. But it shows down. I think it has to do with the reversal arrows here, in fact. The hourly is retracing. All right, so we have basically thick, or we had basically thick blue, but we saw reversal arrows up in here. This is one of those trades that I'm actually in a reversal swing trade from here. That's based on Harp, but also ACU, as you can see. So there's confluence between those two. Harp was showing a switch of trends. ACU had actually blue here, but that was kind of like overridden by those arrows, the reversal arrows here. We see, however, even on the 4-hour chart already, that this is starting to thick on red, so it is a downtrend already officially. 1 hour, we're thinning, and 50-minute chart, it seems like there could have been a setup at the 2/8. Now, 2/8 is a bit low, so you can see quickly that Euro AUD is not the best one because it's too close to, it's not high enough, it's not deep enough, I would say, of a retracement. Now, it still definitely could be a continuation at the M2 down to the M1, right? And from that point of view, it could be a good setup, but I think the Euro New Zealand and the dollar CAD look a bit better if you look at Murray math. All right, so that's showing you some examples of hourly trades, 50-minute trades throughout today, how you can scan and keep an eye on these trades as they develop. On ACU, regarding Harp, we see this dashboard, we see a bit more, Harp is showing a mixture too, with lower time frames up, higher time frames down. From that point of view, it's quite similar to ACU. And while we're seeing the potential for perhaps euro yen, but that's a counter trade because we got red, 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 and here you got blue. We're basically looking for some strong, thick blue, or dark red, and one time frame later to continue with the momentum. So if we have dark blue here and thin on our lower time frame, that could be a potential setup. And we will get an alert system when the 15 gets dark blue. Here, for instance, we have thick blue once again, dark blue. This is light. So if this turns dark blue, we might have a setup. We might, because you still need to check and verify if that's a good setup. Let's take a look at, for instance, the euro yen perhaps. Alrighty. Now, the euro yen is downtrends weekly, daily, 4 hour. But don't forget that I'm showing a lot of time frames. What you want to do is choose the time frames you trade with. And choosing 6 might be confusing, might be for some viewers too much. And that's all that you can all of that you can custom adjust, because you don't want to create confusion for yourself. The dashboard is meant to simplify things. So choose the number of pairs and the number of time frames that you feel comfortable with, basically. This might be too much for you. This might be too little for you. That I don't know. That's why we made it easy to adjust. When we look at the high time frames, it's a bit contradictory. So if you are an intraday trader, you might not care about the weekly and daily that much. And from that perspective, euro yen could be interesting for upside because we got alignment to the upside on the hourly chart, right? We got green candles and blue bars here, all right? When we have that already since here. And on a 15-minute chart, right, we got momentum. Look at the blue candles and look at everything aligned here. And that's what I think that is the advantage. What I like about Harp is because is that it gives confidence in which direction we're looking for. It gives alignment. It's pretty quick to see that. So when we have that, we're looking for pullback continuation. Despite the fact, let me say it this way, despite the fact that the high time frames are showing downside, you could easily take a scalp intraday trade to the upside based on that hourly trend. And on a 5-minute chart, we see trend, pullback, right? Pullback, continuation. And how could we trade that continuation? Simply by trading the candle becoming blue again, by trading the oscillator finishing, or by trading the arrow here, for instance, or the break of the fractal, which is a late entry though, in this case. And the earlier entries, right, anywhere in here, and aiming for R2, 60 pips, aiming for the M4, 32 pips. Stop loss with the early entries probably below the M3 would be a bit safer, right? 20, 25 pips. And you can see that here, up, retrace. Beautifully aligned, retrace, up. So that is the retracement that we're looking for within that trend. Up, retrace, up. And I think that's the beauty of trading. I think that trend trading at its best. A lot of people talk about trend trading. Some say it's good, but it's not as easy necessarily to trend trade. To find that moment where what is a dip or what is actually a reversal. Others say trend trading is overrated. Precisely because of that reason, it's not as easy to really find that spot. I think that Harp does that very nicely, as you can see here, finding that dip within that trend. Now, obviously, yes, sometimes the dip doesn't turn out to be a dip, but turns out to be a pause for a reversal. That's why we need to check filters and make sure that we're not trading it at a spot that is close to a major support or resistance. All right, so that's just one example on the euro yen to intraday upside despite the downtrend that we did have on higher time frames. Let's see. Pound odd, I myself took a trade to the upside from here onwards, and from a Harp point of view, that definitely was early because we have a lot of things aligned to the downside. So there was not necessarily here, reason for a long that would make sense. But I mean, if you're looking for potential trades that are counter trend trade, even if you use different analysis to take a trade in a certain area, then you could use the Harp charts. If your analysis says that you're looking for a bounce somewhere here, like my analysis said, then the arrow like this, for instance, or the loss of the counter trend momentum could make sense. Now, this is not something you always want to do, only, of course, if your analysis indicates that you are expecting a reversal, for instance, right? In that case, you would be using the template a bit differently. Anyhow, let's take a look at the euro odd. That's my pound odd trade at the moment. Counter trend trade. Don't take many, but that looked good to me. Just like the pound and euro dollar upside today. Euro odd at this moment, basically it's trending down on the daily. It is we're continuing the downtrend on the 4-hour. We had a correction here, and it seems that it's ready for a resumption of that. So there could be swing trade potential here on the euro odd to the downside, for instance. And you can see that with the template here, it is pink, red, but actually it's pink at the moment, so maybe better is pound odd. You see red and pink. So don't get me wrong, this hourly trade is a reversal trade, right? And if you look at the Acu dashboard, you got thick red, and pink. So as soon as the 4-hour turns red, that could be actually an interesting pound odd swing trade to the downside. So don't get me wrong, the trade I just mentioned is a reversal trade, and as soon as that reversal moves up and completes its correction to the upside and starts to turn, it could be very well set up for a down trade on the 4-hour, because the daily and the weekly are very much aligned here. As you can see on the pound odd, this is retracing, so that could be definitely a swing trade that's interesting for downside. All right, so let's take a look at more potential trades. The same holds true for pound odd and euro dollar. You can see that we're having a retracement at 4 hours. So although the upside was great trades intraday perspective, once there is a point where if the 4-hour switches back to red, that this could be a swing trade to the downside on these two pairs too. All right, so this is how, if you look at the 4-hour, and you're comparing it to the daily, you can find potential swing trades, I would say, on those pairs, on these pairs, these 4 pairs here. Not right now, but when we get the turn. And are there any other combinations? That all of these things hold true. We don't have a good 4-hour, 1-hour combination at the moment. All right, because we don't have any. We got thick red here, but thick blue here, so that's not good. We're looking for this to basically turn red, which is it's far from that. So we don't have any setup here on the 4 1-hour combinations, but we do have on the 1-hour 15, right? Aussie is retracing here, and the euro yen was a setup earlier today, for instance. So let's take a look at the Aussie. All right. We are looking for Aussie on lower time frame. So 1 hour, yes. Do we have an uptrend? Yeah, we do. On the hourly, we do. So definitely from this moment onwards, I can actually green. This is blue. Yes, we can hunt on lower time frames for upside. Do we have momentum to the upside? Well, we certainly do. Long-term up, up, up. Even this one is up. Right here, we want a retracement actually, but we didn't even get it. So 5-minute chart, if we're looking for scalps or intraday trades, right? So we're looking for a possibility to join that trend. So this could have been one, the arrow could have been another, this could have been another, this could have been another. Those are potential entries. Here too, with the oscillator turning, all of those on the 5-minute chart here could have been entry potentials. Right there. 3 moments. Not saying that all of them are good to take. You want to choose wisely, not overtrade, not over risk, etc. But this is basically the multiple potential ways of tackling the upside. Now, didn't move a gigantic bit, but still, 40 pips. I mean, it was a slow move. The Aussie is just not moving as much, but still a decent amount of pips to be made at the M4 or R1. So I think that was still okay. Now at this moment, we might have one more push up to the R2, but obviously, as you know, I don't want to trade it above the R2 or below the S2, right? That is a moment where price just extends so far throughout the day that you don't want to trade it at that point above it or below the S2. But because then it gets so far extended that the probability is too low. Let's take a look at the euro dollar. Here we hit the M4. Here we're 2 retracing. So this could too be a retracement for one more push up to the R2. Now we are getting close, 1 hour left, so we are getting close to resistance. I would be cautious for further upside. It is possible to make one more push up, but London is getting close to an end, so we got 1.5 hours left. If it doesn't do that in the next, that 1.5 hours, doesn't turn around to go to the R2 within that time frame, I would just forget that. It is potentially possible that we have one more push up, but we are getting to a level that I would consider to be a potential turning spot on a higher time frame. But it doesn't mean it couldn't make that one more spot push up. At the moment, we are retracing. This is falling. This is turning gray. We have a red arrow, so we don't have a setup right now. But if it continues and then bounces, for instance, at the M3, and we get a blue candle, an arrow there, it could be a setup. I just want to warn you, be very aggressive with trade management. If it shows anything like a bear flag, get out of that trade because it could be a bigger reversal. All right, folks. Any particular questions you might have for me right now? I encourage you to join our YouTube channel to subscribe. You can go to YouTube, click for Elite Currency. All right, and subscribe to us. Same holds true for Admiral Markets, of course. Go to YouTube, search Admiral Markets, and subscribe. And you'll be able to see all the videos that are new. So I think that's well worth your time. I think that you will enjoy that you will be updated. No questions. So I thank everyone very much. I hope to see you in Admiral Markets webinars. This was the last one of the Elite Currency series for the moment. I'm sure we're going to have a continuation of that in the near future. If you would like to sign up for a trial of Harp or Accu, please go to Elite Currency and you'll find 2-week trial there, and you can sign up and join that list. Wish you all great trading. Oh, one question here from Arn: how do you switch on and out the dashboard? The dashboard, you can basically, I'm not sure what you mean. Well, you could remove the template. You could just move a template, the normal template without the dashboard. So you get rid of the dashboard. If you mean the alerts, then you would have to go into the indicator here, and you would have to turn off sound alert or turn off the pop-up or both. Go to false, make it false, and then you would have the alert system off. The dashboard itself, I don't think you can turn off except just removing it, or you can get rid of all the time frames, but I don't think that would make sense. It's probably just better to change or get rid of that dashboard. The trial, basically, if you go for the Accu trial, you will be able to test the dashboard and alert system. If you try the Harp trial, unfortunately not, because it's too complicated to set up. Unfortunately, it would. Harp is a very. It's more of a charting system, and if I would have to set up a trial for the entire Harp charts, I wouldn't have time left in the day, unfortunately, because it would require too much time. So we kind of select a few things that you can test, and that's unfortunately it, because it would really be too much of a burden for Nenad and myself. That's the reason. Accu is different because it's a smaller trial. The indicators, the number of indicators simply are just less, so we can offer the alert system and the dashboard as a trial for 2 weeks, and you can test that. So if you want to test the alerts and you want to test the dashboard, then we recommend looking at Accu. Harp, unfortunately, it's not possible, but you can, for 99 euros, you can actually test Harp for 3 months. So I think it's it's an affordable price for, we hope, many. So if you're curious about Harp, maybe it could be worth just trying it for 99 euros, and you can test it for 3 months. That could be another way, besides the free trial for 2 weeks. So that's up to you. You can try both Accu and Harp. If you've tried Accu recently, though, then you gotta wait a bit, because we cannot continuously, of course, offer trials for Accu. You could then do that continuously. That's not, of course, the intention from our side. So, but next month, if you already tried Accu in April, then next month we will, end of next month, we will set it up for you again. All right, folks. So great questions. I hope everything's clear. If not, just feel free to use the email address or this website contact form to reach us. And I wish you great trading, folks. Talk to you soon. Cheers.